And we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Real Time Talk with Eagle 3D Streaming. I am, of course, Quentin Anderson, the host of Real Time Talk. Today, we have Wolfgang Bernecker with us as our special guest. Wolfgang is the founder and CEO of FutureACT, management consultant, and he is a management consultant and engineer. Being a holistic thinker, he strives to maximize impact. Thus, great results have been achieved, especially in projects targeted towards early adopters. A dedicated strength is to create win-win scenarios for platforms combining B2B partners to form new B2C offers. This allows true and sustainable value creation. He enjoys delivering success in meaningful projects. His knowledge of balancing the factual and emotional aspects facilitates the acceptance of solutions. I love the intro you provided. Nothing to do with lighting.
Yeah.
He also knows a little bit about lighting, which we will probably get into. But Wolfgang, thank you so much for being on today's show. How are you today?
I'm very well, and I'm just thinking that I should rewrite that LinkedIn intro a little bit, but anyhow, to make it easier and shorter. But anyhow,
It's very,
I'm
very
very well.
magical. Great. Great. Well, thank you for stopping by. Before we sort of discuss some of the projects you're engaged in, if this is anyone's first time on the show, this is a live show, which means that please, 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 if you're watching this right now, don't hesitate to ask questions. We love participation. We love providing you the information that you'd like to know more on. So don't hesitate to ask a question in the chat during the channel. But without further ado, Wolfgang, so just to maybe get started a little bit, can you share some about your background and where your focus is primarily in the professional world?
Thank you for that. Yeah, first of all, I think looking at my history and my past and whatever, there is no straight way forward. So I said I've studied this and then I've immediately got where I am now. It's more design thinking loops, kind of. But it always run around engineering, and I'm passionate about lighting. And I was lucky enough to make out of lighting usually my business over the last years, whether being a trainer, whether being a lighting designer, which is still the thing which I enjoy the most. And out of the real lighting design, I'm heavily frustrated since years with just the fact that we are not very successful in the lighting design industry with making clear that non-dimmable lighting, not dimmable light, which is 80% of the turnover today in lighting, is just standard, and we should overcome that for good reasons, because we have scientific proof that it's good for people if lighting would change. And we have scientific proof that it's good for the climate, air condition, for the climate conditions in the world if lighting would change as well. There's a lot of waste in it. When you have a lighting, it's on at 2 o'clock at night and there's no one really around it to see it. So why the heck are we consuming that energy? And so that was kind of my overall topic all the years. And in order to get that in connection with what has it to do with Eagle 3D streaming and pixel streaming and Unreal, yeah, we found out that the virtual world is one of the best elements and has grown in the recent years to really give people an understanding of why should they focus and care about lighting and discuss all of these parameters.
Because within a game engine, can you change in real time lighting parameters? That is, and can you do that? And is it, how accurate is it to the real world if I were to do something like that?
It is. It depends on what you want to achieve and at which timing. For me, and the way how it is, it has to be accurate enough that you see the lighting distribution and that the people really see the digital twin and see no strange artifacts. That's definitely the case. If I'm allowed to make sometimes screenshots when it goes a little bit deeper, then we are at a level where the lighting is pretty accurate, and it's definitely on a level where the standard design tools out there on the market can compete with, I have to say. But it is this interaction which makes it interesting. All of the changes and how do they change for whatever reasons they change. That's, I think, the most important aspect. So the speed and the interactivity is even more important than the quality in each detail. But that depends heavily on, having said that, it depends heavily on the application and the customer we are dealing with.
And can you maybe share some of the projects that you've worked on recently, or if any project comes to mind, just to give an example of how you typically are involved in some of these lighting projects?
Yeah, I could show you some of these aspects. As I said, I'm more coming from the lighting industry, not from software guru. I'm just using that as a tool in my projects to sort these things out. So I could share you one of the streams we are hosting on your side.
Sure.
Just give me a second.
Let's go for it.
And I have not shared with sound as I'm speaking along with it. If you're going into it, then you are completely in a fact that there is a sound in the background which people individually can go through that. Now, in that virtual lab is, as you've seen in here, it's all in IES files. I can click on every sort of luminaire and whatever. And very important when we look at it, that people can get this feeling about digital twin, how good is it or how not. That is a room which is in Dals, the Danish Outdoor Lighting Lab. It's in Copenhagen, and they have an 18 square kilometer site where they're looking at intelligent traffic systems and intelligent lighting system and in combination to each other. And for us, important is that when we do that in that room, when there are visitors in that area, the real lighting changes alongside with it, so that whenever people can look at it, it's not the highest quality. So when I look at Paolo's presentation 2 weeks ago, that's a total different level and absolutely okay. And not only okay, I love that magic in his pictures and the visual artists' work on that. Right. Here it is important that the customers absolutely get the feeling, okay, it has the right lighting artifacts, the lighting distribution is correctly and whatever. But then they would like to see the applications running, and it's outdoor lighting. So then we usually go to some places like this one where we are talking then about specific outdoor application. Now, there's one of that. I'm not showing you all of the roads, but there's one idea. I think this one is quite an easy one to understand from an application perspective. Usually, outdoor luminaires are installed like once, and then they are 17 years making lighting overnight. And potentially, you're dimming down lighting a little bit by saying, okay, from 11 to 5 o'clock in the morning, you get only 50%. But they don't reflect what's happening, and we do a little bit of energy efficiency. Now, that use case is one of the things which we usually care about it. Now, again, we can make that pretty much more accurate, but people understand immediately what that is about. There's a person lying under that car. That person is calling the police. Now, in the lighting design world, you would have now a lighting designer who talks to the city's lighting responsible, and they would think about 7.5 candela per square meters. They would not care about ambulance and emergency and whatever, because the road classifications just dictate what it is. Now, by showing these aspects, a mayor can say, oh, I understand these applications. It's a language which we form. And the mayor says, oh, I understand that, because if I want to pass by that car, potentially, I see here that person is calling, that car has potentially an accident. I don't see the person, so I just pass by. And if I drove drive above that person lying behind that car because you'll never get lighting into that area, then you really killed that person. And that is something which matters.
Yeah, absolutely. And and if I may just ask a few questions here, and also to clarify a few things. So the 3D visuals that we're looking right now is a digital recreation of a space known as Doll. Is Doll the actual name of this space, Wolfgang, or what is the name of this area?
It has that industrial park, and in there's an organization called Toll, a Danish outdoor lighting lab, is the owner of that space.
Got it. Yeah. So everyone who's viewing this, this is an industrial space in Denmark, and it's partially operated by an organization known as Dahl. And this industrial space, and Wolfgang, correct me if I'm wrong, focuses primarily on creating areas to run lighting experiments to test different scenarios. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, it is. The focus is more on testing future stuff, and I think one of the one of the challenges we have as cities, that they have divided into own silos, which usually don't talk to each other. So the emergency department is potentially not talking to the lighting department and the other way around.
Right. And the reason they're not talking to each other is because there is no common language. Is that typically the reason why there isn't communication? Or
there is the way of communicating to each other is because they all focus on their task. So the lighting designer in a city is responsible for the lighting design and making sure that the road classifications are met. The person who's responsible for emergency is not looking at the lighting because that's not part of his responsibilities. Now, however, in the application I've just shown, and I can reshare if you want immediately, then the red blinking lighting at the beginning, at the end of that emergency scenario is a trigger for everyone else. There's something wrong, so I should slow down. But it's as well a trigger for the emergency vehicle driver, or the ambulance vehicle driver, to get there quicker. And suddenly they care about the lighting because they understood that brings them an advantage. And if it would be 100% lighting on, it gives them a 10 seconds to 20 seconds advantage, because they usually, the first thing is at night, they have an extra lighting which they bring out to make sure that space is kind of lit and they see what they need to see. So that is 20 seconds more in an emergency scenario. And that all together, we can trigger with that kind of lighting scenario. And the interesting aspect which we have met is we could talk about that for ages, and people say, yeah, that's a nice idea. But the moment we have shown that, we have suddenly 3 or 4 times, I know 3 applications at the moment, I know that 2 more are discussed at the moment, that has been installed. So that is the idea, to bring that away. And people who are visiting the space are usually visiting a day. So again, just to see that then at nighttime and how that really works together, the real world, how the luminaires look during the day, how the shapes are, and then at the night they see the applications, that makes a big difference for them.
Yeah, because,
and the quality was enough for that reason. Again, we can discuss endlessly about qualities and things like that. The IES is good. The IES files and the lighting distribution is okay. The rest is more low poly aspects, which is not necessary to get more.
Yeah, and would you mind bringing the visual back up? I'd like to call out a few things which I think are so cool about this. So Wolfgang has essentially created a lighting simulation.
Give me a second.
That he's about to bring up, and through creating that simulation, he uncovered that in a scenario where if a person is injured, they may be in an area which is too dark. And if there's a second car on the road, that car may also not see that individual, which would make the incident even more catastrophic. So he has engineered a lighting setup that could um, help improve this scenario, which is amazing. And there's two things. So one, if I'm driving a car down this road and I see a red flashing light, I'm immediately going to start paying more attention to what's going on. And Wolfgang, another thing that I was thinking is the person on the phone may also have some sense of relief a little bit that help could be on the way because their environment is changing to the situation.
Yeah, immediately. So she calls, she's standing in half darkness, and suddenly, after the call, the lady on the telephone is usually a lady, for calming down as well as the scenarios. We know as well that female voices here help a lot. So that will immediately take that down from a stress level and say, look, we are illuminating already better. Help is on the way. And by saying that is, there's so many aspects which are an advantage which you will never bring by in a PowerPoint presentation.
Right.
I see that we are struggling slightly because we are streaming a stream in a stream.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but
Sure. I think the point though there is fairly clear, which is um, we are engineering lighting to help, or we are creating more intelligent lighting because at least in the United States, if that scenario were to occur, then nothing would happen in terms of the lighting in that area. The lights
yeah,
wouldn't get darker, they wouldn't get brighter, they would just remain the same.
it's
And
even funny if you're in Europe, and the same as in the US, by the way, on that level is when the police is stopping at night. So at the moment they are even turning off light partly. And then police, if they want to stop cars at night, they have their own illumination with them, which they set beforehand up to make sure that they are under light. When there is lighting available in that street, but they can't access it because it's 17 years the same lighting, it's on or off, depending on the time, not because of people need it.
mm-hmm. And does LEDs, the LED technology, I guess that also plays a part in this because I don't know, maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we wouldn't be able to control lighting as much as we can now because of LEDs, or is that?
Let's phrase like that. We would have been able, but the aspect is all of the norms and standards and classifications out there on the market are made for standard lighting because these norms and regulations, they started in the 1920s and 30s, and you can't get rules away. And at that time, we don't discuss about dimmable lighting. We were just happy to have light. Nowadays, we have a whole electronic supply chain for lighting, from the LEDs to the driver to all of the technology. And what I usually say to people is, oh, it's so complicated about virtual worlds and whatever. And I say controls. Every controls platform is out there is already virtual anyhow, because it's software. Software is virtual. So connecting that in the virtual world and making that visible makes a lot of sense. What we do is a little bit, we are using a Danish architect's idea, Jan Gehl, who said, I don't want to have this bird eye view look at when I plan a city. I want to see the area and the space and the distances, how I could see it as a human being. And this bird eye view from cities and heat maps on top of that, it's very good for people who have a great understanding about heat maps and technologies and are very equipped with it. But the people living in a city, I would assume they care most, and we should care most about their quality. And they see their city never in a bird's eye view. They see it in their distances. And by using these tools, we've made as well a good experiences with participatory lighting design. So inviting people who have no clue about lighting, but suddenly could say, oh, that looks better than that one. But try to phrase that in correct lighting terms. It's 3,500 Kelvin is the right color temperature on the road at 7.5 candela per square meter on a vertical surface. Yeah, experts understand what I said.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
And for those who don't understand, when we see a visual of that, then we can understand immediately.
easy. And we see immediately if 7.5 candela per square meter vertical means that you can see impressions of people's faces. In usually nighttime scenarios, not in Las Vegas because you have so much lighting bouncing around from everywhere, but in normal outdoor scenarios, 7.5 candelas per square meter vertically would say, I see your face.
Yes.
I see your face means I understand if you make me frightened, if I need to go to the other side of the road, or if I can just stay happy and nice in that area.
Right.
And that's quality. And vertically, we can, with the virtual tools, we can play that.
Yep. And for us who don't understand Kelvin and temperatures and degrees and luminosity and lumineers, if we just see it, then it will completely make sense to us. So if you're trying to get buy-in from a mayor or a government official or something like that, it's a great way to help explain the lighting scenario.
Yeah, I see even on a visual artist side, we could talk about shadow bias and we can talk about the lumen and the amount of bounces and quality we put in the things. We can talk about the limitations, which we all see still in the virtual worlds. Fine enough, but generally is by creating pictures, by all of the qualities the online gaming industry brought along, we are in worlds which we understand and we can easily relate to very quickly. And that is so fabulous in so many ways. And for the lighting industry, it's a gift.
So, and you shared a lot of the doll project. Are there any other projects that you're currently working on or other ideas of applications of how a game engine and pixel streaming technology is using to help the lighting industry?
Yeah, we've worked on one project which I could potentially open for you if you want to, which is a completely so all of my three partners I mainly work with. So that's Doll, so my big partners. That's Doll, that's Tridonic is another company, and there's a wholesaler organization in Germany, a big one, which is as well looking on how to sell better the lighting. We can easily, all of these three are saying, can I use it for training? And we have done two applications which we look at for a training perspective. Let me just open one to make that a little bit more clear what I mean with that. Share that screen. Again, there's full audio with it, whatever. But we have this training center for Tridonic, which gives different people different aspects of how to look at that. Now, Tridonic is one of the big electronic manufacturers in lighting. And we have a sales world, and we explain on the top a little bit about. Do you see that, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, from a sharing perspective. Okay.
Yes.
So we have a little bit of an idea. It's I've stopped the person talking in the background, which we have generally, but what they do as a standard at Tridonic is very simply they have these aspects where they can train, and we have put learning passes in it. Nothing to do with lighting generally, because of what they do from the past, and we needed to integrate that is, can we open them some videos from their library and put these videos, so put their standard videos and whatever of a sales mission into saying, what could that be then? An update, have strides light decks. So we combined several elements of their learning paths they already have into one island, and then at the end we do multiple choice tests or whatever, so that they get credits, and we can say, okay, you have to, like in tennis or whatever, in the ATP system, you have to get a minimum of 600 credits over a year to stay on top. Now, this is only there because it's very easy for me to make, but generally it's taking the organization where they are with standard training material. Where we would like to go in the further much more is that we then have other scenarios, like I'm going into the school area, where in the school area there is this kind of technology around it, which is one of the products they are selling. And it's not the best product, they know, because that's, I think, on the lowest level. But the great thing about it is for every lighting function, there is a button with it. And when we talk about lighting functions, so dimming down, dimming up, I could immediately show how that works in simulation. Now, the next thing what we do is we need to group potentially the lighting in a way that we can make different things with the lighting. So grouping of lighting, usually a lot of people don't really know that or whatever. It's the easiest way is it starts that one of the luminaires is on, the rest is off or down to 1%. And then I can say this one goes to group number 2, next one goes to group number 2, next one to group number 2, next. And that's exactly the same how you would do that with a real life.
Wow. And
when I have that, I can now switch on what they call constant lighting control. Now that's very simple, constant lighting control. What does this mean? And I do an offset of 30%. And to show you what that means, I'm just opening the daylight menu. I can change my daylight alongside with it, and my lighting will now change. And potentially you might have seen that in that glass ball over there, these luminaires are now at 93%. Group number 1 is at 63%. That's what a 30% offset means. So that one group is 30% down, and it will dim up to 93% if we are having even less daylight.
Wow.
And again, if I change my daylight, I could as well look at how many lux do I have at my light sensor. 463 lux. 500 is what I need. So the row directly on the window is down to 1%, and the row which is a little bit away from the window, group number 1, which we have programmed, is at 7%. And people understand immediately what these things mean, and they understand as well how to program that.
So once it's programmed, does the light switch concept essentially go away because it is all now automated?
Yeah, ideally, whether it's automated or whether we would have a much cleverer system. In this case, it would be automated. So we would have a light sensor, we would have a present sensor. This is all for the present sensor detection. And then I can completely program it. And then I could take that completely away and potentially leave just a dimming button or on off, because some people still want to have some kind of manual control. I think that's even a quality level. In that aspect.
Gotcha.
So we try to simulate things on the one side, and as well on the other side is to give the ideas, because the people who are making these products, the sensors, and Tridonic is producing the sensors, the technology, and everything else, they don't usually see their own products in their real environments. And that gives them a much better idea of what's happening. So on that one, for example, we have, you potentially know that in the US as well, this is an emergency luminaire,
right,
which has a green or a red LED. And here we have our testing system, and it blinks now, flashing in a 1 second flashing. That is a charging failure, which I know. No, it's not. Oh, Matt, it's a battery failure. So I should have clicked the battery failure, and I go on that one. And then I go to the next one, and it's not flashing. And again, what is it? And that's for their sales force a very important way of doing it. So it's a completely different way of looking at it than before. But that's a little bit the way how we're looking at it. And then when the people are, again, very simple, it's not very fancy. But for the sales guys, it's quite a good thing. They understand what they have done, and that is automatically. And we are adding like one topic a week at the moment on their sales island.
Wow.
So for the sales people, it's quite an interesting aspect. No, I'm running out of time. I see that. Sorry.
Well, I mean, I love this just because it's such a unique and different application of using Unreal Engine and pixel streaming. But essentially, on the one hand, we're simulating different lighting scenarios for planning purposes, among other things, and then another, we're doing training. So this was very, ooh, here comes the pun, enlightening.
Yeah, sorry. We are still doing lighting.
So thank you very, very much for this overview. And yes, I know you were aware of the time. Thank you very much for being conscious, and thank you everyone for tuning in today. Wolfgang, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you so much for your time. Everyone, we have an event next week, next Thursday, where we will have a panel discussing opportunities in pixel streaming. You don't want to miss it. There's going to be industry experts on this panel who have a lot of knowledge of pixel streaming, and it's live like always. So please don't hesitate to ask your questions. Wolfgang, thank you again for stopping by today.
Thank you. Lovely to talk to you.
Yes.
As usual.
Yes, yes, likewise. All right, everyone. This has been Quentin Anderson with Real Time Talk. We will catch you on the next show. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Wolfgang, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
See you later.